What's up guys, K-Place here. After the release of Arch-Tempered Raidao and the Blossom Dance Festival, we've seen the entirety of the content that Title Update 1 has to offer. I'm sure some of you may be wondering what the new best hunting horn builds are, especially since I've seen a few questions about what I'm using and why for certain horns in my overview series. This video is going to be my coverall answer to those questions, at least as far as Title Update 1 goes. When the second one rolls around, expect another going over any of the changes we may see there. For now though, let's talk about the current musical meta. And before I get into it, I want to give a big thanks to the hunting horn musicians over in the Horn Pub, and a special shout out to Upgrade, the author of the Hunting Horn Meta Guide. I'll link that below in case anyone wants a detailed written version of the info I'm going to be sharing here. To start things off, let's get the go-to horns out of the way. Omultica, moving on. Nah, I kid, but only just barely. The Ardean horns still, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you ask, dominate a majority of niches. But for those who want less RNG grinding and more variety, there are a few normally crafted options still in the running. Zoshia's Blazing Gariel and the Guardian Archiveld version of the Resounding Galahad still take the lead over Ardean for general purpose raw damage matchups. The former gives you the health regen bubble for some nice survivability comfort and offset melody for countering, while the latter is best for going all out on damage with Echo Wave slicing for crits and resounding melody. For element, normal Archveld's Resounding Galahad is outright better than a Dragon Omultica, and Precipice Kavira from Jindad is directly competitive for ice if you want offset melody instead of resounding. The horns from Raidao and regular Rathalos also let you choose countering over blasting out sound damage, but unlike with Ice and Dragon, these fall a bit further behind their shiny futuristic counterparts. And finally, Summoning Bell is still a decent pick for water when pairing it with the 4-piece Mizu set for the Slick Blade Affinity bonus, but the updated meta sets will be allowing Water Omultica to be pulling ahead once again. Status unfortunately doesn't really have anything able to top Ardean, since with the way status echo waves work, almost all horns with ailments apply them at nearly the same rate, so the higher raw stats usually take the win. Glass Royale is an exception unique enough to earn an honorable mention, being the only status hunting horn with resounding melody for spamming even more paralysis than Omultica can. The rest of the horns in the game at the moment mostly fall somewhere in the range between still decently useful but not top tier in stats departments, nice for a niche/meme playstyle, and, well, let's be nice and say best left not crafted to save yourself the Xenium materials. Moving on to armor, aside from the more specific aims one might have for a particular skill build, we have 3 main sets to go with depending on your approach to gameplay. And as a huge surprise, one of them actually doesn't include any Gormagala parts. Shocker, right? We'll save that one for last though. Before we get there, I'm going to give a brief disclaimer for how I view builds for this weapon. Because of the song buffing mechanic, Hunting Horn is unique in 2 main ways compared to the rest of the weapon roster. 1, almost any option you choose will automatically carry at least some added comfort/survival/utility benefits. And 2, Capcom usually takes number 1 as a reason to forever keep us down when it comes to dealing damage. Because of these factors, I tend to try and pump as much offensive power as I can into my Hunting Horn builds. We can certainly use all we can get, and unlike other weapons, we don't actually have to sacrifice non-damage perks when doing so. That said, you can absolutely take these as templates and adjust the skills in them however you see fit. I'm not here to tell you how to play your game, just to give out some good suggestions on how to better your results and experience. Unless, that is, you want to use the wide range support setups. No advice for you, the shame corner is that way. For the rest of you fine upstanding hunting horn means, you can strap on a second horn and enjoy twice the buffs while focusing on bashing monster skulls. Usually this will mean snagging earplugs and either attack up or affinity up depending on the offensive boost on your main horn. But since these builds can be matched with nearly any horn, you can mix and match your 2 weapon and song list choices however you see fit. Enough preamble though, here are the builds in question. First, we've got the new kid on the block. 3 pieces of Raidao Gamma. These give you Lord Soul, the new set bonus for Arch-Tempered Apex monsters. By default, you gain 5% more attack power at the cost of 5% of your defense, which is a nice bonus for a relatively small drawback. For Hunting Horn, it's especially useful because unlike crit-based skills, Lord Soul benefits our sound-based attacks as well. We can probably expect to see the Helm in a lot of future sets, since it gives a point in both Max Might and Weakness Exploit and a 3-slot. Easily the best picks of the set in my opinion. The arms give 2 free level 3 slots and 2 points in Evade Extender. I've seen a lot of love for this one because a lot of Hunting Horn players seem to love Extender for mobility, but also just as many that dislike it. Personally, I'm in that second camp because the longer rolls tend to throw off my positioning a bit, but if you're a fan, congratulations, you hit the jackpot with this piece. The Waste is a still point killer if you ask me, coming with 2 points of latent power and the other 2 points of max might, but unfortunately, no slots. Shame, because in most cases with the chest and legs not being all that efficient for us, that's the third most efficient piece for Lord Soul. Once you get these 3 equipped though, you'll have 2 more armor slots to work with. So what do we pick? Well, the most obvious way to push this even further would be to, of course, slap on the good old Wilds classic of 2 pieces of gore armor with Antivirus 3. Stacking 25% affinity on top of a 5% attack bonus already puts you at an amazing start before even factoring in skills, which is good because of how slightly skill restrictive Arch-Tempered Ray sets are sometimes from what I found in my theory crafting. From here, you'll add either a single point in both Adrenaline Rush and Burst, or 2 points in Burst, depending on whether or not you can consistently dodge roll and keep the former active. With 2 points in both Evade Window and Extender, the set does have a bit of help built in for you here, but if you want a condition as easy as just don't stop attacking for too long, the Burst 2 variation offers much simpler upkeep, and a slight power increase for Elemental Horn specifically as well. The second biggest change from our pre-Title Update 1 sets is finishing out our builds with Agitator instead of Weakness Exploit. Never thought I'd see Weakness Exploit be dethroned, but the reasoning mainly comes down to some testing from better Monster Hunter mathematicians than myself, determining that Agitator has a much higher uptime than we originally thought. 20 more attack and 15% affinity when a monster is enraged end up beating out 30% affinity all the time on weak spots at the same cost. And again, this is especially true for boosting Hunting Horn's attacks that are unable to crit. In a perfect world with all the skill space we could ask for, we'd ideally also stuff Weakness Exploit into this set, but as things are now, there's just no space. 70% affinity when everything is up and running is plenty. The main exception to this current rule is fighting Guardians, which don't allow you to take advantage of Agitator nearly as often as with regular monsters. Against those, you'll want to swap back to the typical Weakness Exploit skill setup. Now, as much as some might hype up the new set bonus, there is one drawback that might come into play for some of you. If you take a hit that would have carded you, it's bye-bye attack boost in exchange for a swap to bonus defenses instead. The get out of jail free card is kinda sweet, and providing some extra padding to get you to the finish line after that near card experience may be helpful for some, but this is Hunting Horn we're talking about in this video. We're already the kings of comfy thanks to our Song of Utilities, so that extra padding isn't really all that necessary. Because of that, I say we essentially just give up our attack boost for a death save, so if you find yourself eating up the guts effect more often than you like, the 4-piece gore build from before the title update still works perfectly fine. You'll still want to make the swap I just mentioned above versus non-Guardians, using the Numinous chest from Zoshia for the Agitated variant of this build, or the Archvulcan chest from Guardian Ultra for Weakness Exploit. Black Eclipse 2 adds 10 to 15 attack on top of the 25% affinity of the 2 set bonus, which makes up for the 5% multiplier from Lord Soul in most cases. But say you're tired of Gore Magala armor, or you want to try something new. Or you tend to get smacked up during your hunts and want to bring a little payback to the monsters treating you like a ragdoll. Well, allow me to introduce you to the Zo-Ray mix set. As the name suggests, this build combines the 3-piece Lord Soul bonus with the 2-piece Super Recovery bonus from Zoshia's armor. You may see variations of this build out there with different armor pieces, but I personally find the most luck swapping the AT-Ray helm for the chest in order to complete latent power easier. Now, normally I'd never suggest that skill for a Hunting Horn build, but in this specific case, I'd say it's a key part in what makes this set stupidly, hilariously strong. See, like I said before, if you're not a perfect player and you typically get roughed up during your hunts, this set allows you to come back with a vengeance. Latent Power grants you an insane 50% affinity for 2.5 minutes at level 5 with the unique Raid Out set bonus boosting its duration, and Counter-Strike 3 throws another 25 attack onto the pile at any time you take a hit. You don't even miss Black Eclipse. This set hits 95 affinity with all your skills up and running. If we could fit Resetment in here too, it would be a wrap, but again, we're a little tight on slots here. The Zoshia bonus's passive recovery is there to preserve the Lord Soul damage boost. If you get carded, the safety net is still there, but we'd rather just keep out of that range and stay with the extra power. The result is an absolutely cursed powerhouse of a build that technically, and that's a big technically, overpowers the others with everything up and running, provided you don't get hit too much to the point where you lose guts or just aren't keeping up on your offense. The catches here, of course, are latent power shaky uptime conditions and the requirement of getting hit, but not too often, to bring out its full potential. But if you're not quite a perfect player, I'd say this one's worth considering. Some of you may want to swap the pieces around but keep the same set bonuses, and I say go nuts. Or maybe mix and match for your preferences, like, say, doing a 2 Gore, 2 Zo build for a halfway point between power and comfort. Enjoy. Or maybe you're like me and want to build some funky builds to complement a specific weapon or a goal. Hunting Horn is pretty darn compatible with that aim since we can add song buffs to the mix, so guess what? Have at it. These 3 builds aren't the only ones you should be using, just what will commonly be the most effective templates. Use them down to the last detail exactly, or tweak the general baseline to whatever you want. Hopefully this at very least gives you a solid place to start. Let me know what you guys are using down below in the comments though, if it wasn't one of the sets that I mentioned. In my next couple of Horn reviews, I might have some more niche sets for some more niche DOOTS decks, and who knows? Maybe I might feature one of your guys' ideas. Until then though, this has been another K-Plays, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.